Hello everyone, welcome back to more Let's Play the Red String of Fate. Last time we left off, it seems that Valerie is having a nightmare. And things are not going too well right now. So let's find out what happens. No! Mom! Don't! Ah! My eyes fly open as I jerk upwards into a sitting position in bed, panting as though I'd just run a marathon. Just a nightmare. Brushing away the tears clinging to my eyelashes, I stare at a wall of my dimly lit room. I can feel cold beads of sweat running down my back. There's a rustling of bedsheets as my roommate turns in her sleep, mumbling something under her breath. I'm glad I didn't wake her, at least. This nightmare again. I thought the recurring nightmares had finally gone away when I moved for college, but they've been coming back very often lately. I wonder why it's happening again. What time is it? My movement's slow as though I'm in a haze. I fumble for my phone lying on the nightstand. I click to unlock the phone, and the sudden bright light from my screen, a stark contrast from this darkness in my room, almost blinds me. I blink, trying to adjust to the light and glancing down at the screen again to check the time. Huh? There's a text waiting for me on the screen, apparently sent around half an hour ago at 2 a.m. It's from Luke. What's he doing up so late? Curiously, I check the text. It's a simple 2 words, horribly misspelled, but I can at least make out what he meant. I can't even fake that. That's horrible. That's horribly mispronounced. That's not horribly mispronounced. That's horribly spelled. Jeez, and you're in the literature club? God damn, boy. My fingers fly over the keyboard as I type back a reply. I am now. What's up? I lean back against the headboard, closing my eyes briefly. My phone buzzes in my hand, demanding my attention. I'm sorry, did I wake you up? Jesus Christ. This time I can't help but giggle at the typing errors in Luke's text. It's so uncharacteristic of his usually perfect and humanly fast typing that I'm both bothered. There is no bothering in there for some reason, and yet I'm pretty determined to put bother in there. Typing that I'm both concerned yet amused. What's up with the typos? You okay? Why are you still awake at this hour? A minute passes without a reply, and I'm starting to think that Luke has fallen asleep when my phone suddenly chimes away happily at a deafening volume. What the? Hastily pick up the call, looking over my roommate, who stirs but thankfully doesn't awake. Damn, she must sleep like a rock. That would have woken my ass up in a heartbeat. Are you insane? I just woke up half the building because of your call. There's a little chuckle from the other end. Sorry, I forgot you live in the dorms. I sigh, shaking my head at him, even though he can't possibly see my reaction right now. Why are you calling me anyway? As you can tell by the growing amount of typos, it's rather hard to type when I'm lying in bed, squinting in the dark. So I figured talking over the phone would be easier than texting. I suddenly realized that we must both be in bed at the same time on opposite ends of the phone, and I flush for a moment. I quickly shake the strange feeling off. Well, get better at it. See, I was texting you just fine. Clearly, it's only your problem. Fine. Teach me, then, Miss Texting Master. I snort with laughter, adopting a mockingly condescending tone. Some things can only be learned on one's own, not taught. You'll get there one day, young grasshopper. Luke laughs and we both fall silent for a moment, our breathing the only sound filling the silence between us. You still haven't told me why you're still up. Better yet, why are you texting me at this hour? Is everything alright? I'm sorry, did I wake you with my text? No, you didn't. But stop dodging the question. What's wrong? This isn't quite unlike you. Can't I just want to talk to a good friend for fun? I give an incredulous chuckle. At 2 a.m. in the morning? No. Luke sighs, and I can almost imagine his frustrated scowl on the other end of the phone. The image brings a smile to my face. What is it, Luke? Clearly, if you texted me, you wanted to talk to me about it. So now that I'm here, you might as well go ahead. It was a spur-of-the-moment text that I somewhat regretted later on. It's nothing important. My voice softens in concern, and I wish Luke were in front of me right now so I could intimidate him with a glare. Obviously, it's nothing important if you're up at 2 a.m. in the morning thinking about it. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. There's a long moment of silence before Luke responds. Today is the anniversary of my grandpa's death. He died of a heart attack on this day 5 years ago. Oh, that sucks. Stunned, I fell silent for a moment, unsure how to respond. I'm sorry. Do you want to talk about it? Don't be. It's fine. It's not like I'm drinking myself into a stupor over his sorrow or something. It's been years. I miss him, of course, but life goes on. I just can't help but feel particularly affected every year on this day, that's all. I understand. I'd say that's perfectly normal. There's a bit of silence before Luke continues. Yeah. You know, Lena even texted me about it earlier. So something about missing my grandpa, too, and that she's here if I want to talk. I guess she remembered what day today is. Oh, wow, really? That's nice of her! Yeah, that really is nice. Yeah, I guess. Did you take her up on that offer? Despite my light, casual tone, I found myself oddly tensing up at the end of my question, waiting anxiously for his answer. Clearly not if I'm on the phone with you right now. Besides, I don't even know where she got my number. I never gave it to her after I changed it. She must have asked around for it. Specifically, Arid. I released a breath I didn't realize I've been holding. I guess my stalker has a stalker of his own, huh? Like, Luke chuckles and the heavy mood seems to lift. You know, I'm beginning to think you are stalking me rather than the other way around. How else do you keep accidentally running into me, like at the beach and in the hallways? Wow, is that any way to show your gratitude when I saved you from your ex-girlfriend in said hallways the other day? We both laughed quietly, too mindful of the sleeping roommates to really let loose with laughter. I don't think I didn't notice your oh-so-subtle change in subject, though. Don't be embarrassed to talk about your grandfather with me. You were the one who let me cry all over you about my parents when we barely knew each other that well on the beach that day, remember? That was kind of a mouthful to say, to be perfectly honest, not gonna lie. Time for me to return the favor. Luke gives a small laugh, but then he sighs. Thank you for the offer, for offering to listen. I'm still sorry about the sudden phone call. I shouldn't have bothered you so late at night about this. Pfft, don't be silly. What are friends for, right? I'm glad you came to me. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you first texted me. I didn't wake up until half an hour later from a well-timed nightmare. Concern laces Luke's voice as he replies. Nightmare? About what? Are you alright? His worrying brings a small smile to my face. How like him to still worry about me when he's the one who sat over the anniversary of his grandpa's death. I'm fine. I pause, the scene from my dreams. No. The terrific memories further twisted by my subconscious sleeping mind, flushing across my mind. You know, the funny thing is, I had a nightmare about my mom's accident tonight. I guess we're both troubled by the deaths of our family today. Oh. I'm sorry, I know how rough it must be. I wrap my blankets tighter around myself, needing a moment to swallow the lump in my throat before I answer. Yeah. Anyways, I'm fine. I'm more worried about you instead. Do you want to talk about your grandpa? He was the one who brought you up, along with your grandmother, right? Yes. He was basically a father to me. My voice softened, sensing Luke's gradual opening up. Tell me more about him. The silence drags on until I think I've pushed too far, and I was about to apologize when Luke pipes up. You know what? I will if you will. What do you mean? I'll talk about my grandfather if you talk about your parents. That's only fair after all. Do we have a deal? Startled, I titter nervously, twirling a stray thread sticking out from the corner of my blanket. Well, Oh, fine. You can go first. What? That's not fair at all. I was the one who asked you about you first. Ladies first. I don't believe this kind of situation is where the phrase comes into play. I abide by that rule in all aspects of life, including this. Chuckling, I shake my head before conceding. Fine, you win. I'll go first. What do you want to hear about? Anything. Your mother, your father, what kind of people they were, what they were interested in, what their relationship was like, your favorite memories with them. Anything at all. What should we talk about? Let's see, my parents' relationship with each other, my parents' personalities, my favorite memories with my parents. Fuck. I think we already kind of mentioned her favorite memories are the beach ones. Let's look at their relationship. In that case, I'll start with my parents' relationship. They were soulmates, you know. I still remember vividly how a red thread connects them by the little finger. I was always fascinated by it. Didn't know what it meant till later on. What I did know, though, was that my parents were one of the most loving couples out of all the parents of the other kids in my kindergarten class. I gave a small laugh, feeling amused at the memory. Of course, like any child, I was embarrassed by my parents' lovey-dovey behavior. Did you pretend to be nauseated by their kissing? Yes, I was absolutely horrified. How could my mother still smile when she's catching boy cooties? The cooties, of course. Luke's laugh echoes mine, and I continue after a moment. Apparently, she really loved my father's cooties. I saw firsthand how much it destroyed my mother when her string broke. She never remarried, never quite managing to get over my father. I feel the beginning of tears pricking my eyes, and I hurriedly close my eyes, tilting my head upwards as though I can keep the tears from falling that way. Neither of us speaks for a long moment. Finally, I manage to recompose myself, and I chuckle softly. Sorry about that. Don't apologize. Are you alright? Yep, I think I've rambled on long enough for now. It's your turn. If Luke notices I'm trying to change the subject, he thankfully doesn't call me out on it. Fair enough. Luke begins telling a story about the time he dragged his reluctant grandfather to go on a roller coaster with him as a child. Not for fun, but just to see how it feels like. Apparently, and almost caused him to have a heart attack. Holy shit. I listen intently, occasionally adding small comments to tease Luke about his behavior as a kid. We continued talking for a long time, sharing our precious memories with our beloved families who have already left us, interjected with small jokes to keep the mood from becoming too heavy. It's odd. I don't usually like talking about my loss, but somehow with Luke, it feels comfortable to do so. Like he'd really listen and understand. It feels nice. I never truly had a best friend before, my priorities with work and lack of interest in flings setting me aside as someone far too different from my peers at that age, but now I understand why people say that everyone needs a best friend. Eventually, our conversation slows, our responses becoming fewer and further in between as we grow tired. Although I also feel the irresistible pull of sleep, I can't resist asking one last question nagging in my mind. Hey, Luke? His voice comes out a slow drawl, betraying his drowsiness, which he had vehemently denied just a minute ago. Why did you choose to text me instead of anyone else? He takes so long to reply that I thought he would fallen asleep already. When he finally answers me, he sounds surprisingly lucid. I don't know. Because I thought you'd understand me. You were the first person that came to mind. It takes me a minute before I can breathe out a soft thank you. My only reply is a soft snore from Luke's end. I smile, shaking my head. Idiot, he must have been really tired after staying up all night. Quietly, I press the red button to end the call and place my phone back on my nightstand. It's time for me to sleep as well. I close my eyes, and this time I drift off to a deep, dreamless sleep. The knock on the door rips me from my dreams, and for a second, I can only stare in confusion at the papers in front of me, my eyes still blurry from sleep. What time is it? A quick glance at the clock gives me my answer. It's still barely past noon. I must have fallen asleep at my desk while working on this essay. Rubbing the bleariness from my eyes, I stretch my arms above my head as the knocking starts up again. Coming! I pull up at the door to see Luke leaning against the frame, one hand in his pocket as usual. He gives me a soft smile as greeting. Good afternoon, Val. I lean in to give him a quick hug, pleased by his sudden visit. When he returns my embrace, I can't help but smile at how far we've come in our friendship. Gone are the days of impenetrable silence and intimidating scowls. Somehow, ever since that late-night phone call conversation, the bond between us has strengthened, pulling us closer. It's as though our shared secret, the loneliness, the pain we both suffered in the past, has been knitted into an unbreakable thread that binds us together. Hey, Luke. Didn't expect you to drop by. What's up? Nothing, really. I just passed by your dorms, and I figured I'd go and see if you're in your room. It's been a while since we hung out. Aw, you want to hang out? Are you trying to say you missed me? Are you projecting your own emotions onto me? I snort, shaking my head. Me? Miss you? Never. Luke returns my teasing grin, his eyes bright with amusement. Is that so? Well, I suppose I won't grant your request then. I'll just be leaving. He makes a motion as though he's going to turn and leave, and I grab his arm tightly to prevent his exit. Wait, what request? You know, your request to read my writing. My jaw drops, and the excitement explodes out of me in form of a happy squeal. Yes! Yes! I've been waiting forever for this! Ah! Is this poem finally finished? The one you were working on at the beach? Luke grins, and his cheeks coloring with uncharacteristic bashfulness. Yes, I'm sorry it took so long. You know I'm a perfectionist. You're such a slowpoke. Well, hand it over. I flick his forehead playfully, and he jerks back with a laugh. I was thinking we could go somewhere else. I want to show you something other than the poem. Intrigued, I cock my head and gauge his expression. He seems a bit nervous and hesitant, almost vulnerable. On the back of my mind, the seed of doubt Natalie planted a while back wiggles again, but I quickly push that thought away. No, of course it's not like that. Sure, where are we going? The corner of Luke's lips twitch upwards into a secretive smile. You'll see. I lean against the wooden railings, peering down into the clear blue water rippling in an almost hypnotizing way. My earlier fatigue from hiking up the mountains is forgone, and I stretch my arm down, hoping but failing to dip my fingers into the beautiful pond. Wow, what a gorgeous view! Was it worth the climb? I close my eyes, feeling the soft breeze brush against my cheeks and listening to the birds chirp in the forest. Definitely. Are you sure? You told me at least 50 times in no uncertain terms that whatever I had planned was not worth the hour steep climb. I turn to see him smiling at me, a teasing glint in his eyes. Did I say that? No, you must have been hallucinating. Where is this place anyway? He sits down with his legs in between the railings, dangling down until it almost touches the water. He gives me a quick side glance. Taking the hint, I sit down next to him, mimicking his posture. It's just a place I enjoy going to for inspiration for my writing. Just thought you might appreciate it, since you're great for your journalism classes as well. Oh. Warmth spreads across my chest, and I give him a pleased smile. It's really nice of you to trust me with this secret place of yours. Thank you. Luke looks away, and his cheeks color slightly. It's nothing. Do you want to read the poem now? Yes! Give it to me! Please! Luke chuckles at my instantaneous, enthusiastic response, and he hands me his precious notebook silently. I look down at it to see that the notebook is already turned to the correct page and start reading. The poem isn't very long, nor is it the greatest masterpiece ever written, but the emotions underlying every sentence feel so genuine and intense that I find myself devouring the poem, drowning in the emotions that it evokes. I can feel the loneliness and the heartache, the unconditional love echoing in every word of the poem, and it resonates with something so deep inside me that I find myself unable to speak for a moment. Briefly, I wonder if this is how Luke feels about his family, the family he has lost. Luke breaks the silence, his hand rubbing the back of his neck nervously. So, sorry, it's not really the best. It's fine if you disliked it. Clearing my throat, I turn my head away, blinking my tears away so Luke wouldn't see. Don't be silly. Of course I liked it. It's perfect. I could almost feel his sigh of relief and a small smile touching my lips at the thought of him following my opinion. Truly? Yes, you are a very talented writer. I mean that. I handed back his notebook and he accepts it without a word, his fingers fiddling with the corner of the paper. Thank you. I'm really glad I had the chance to show it to you. No, thank you. Thank you for showing me such a wonderful, heartfelt poem. An embarrassing silence falls over us, thanks to Luke's embarrassment from revealing such an emotional piece and mine from my overreaction to this poem. The air is too emotionally charged for either of us to strike up a casual conversation to change the subject, and I could only sit there silently, kicking my feet still dangling above the water and staring at the pond in front of me. Eventually, the awkwardness fades and the silence turns more comfortable, yet it still remains. I find myself lost in thought, Luke's words from the poem still echoing in my mind. I wonder... I almost leap out of my skin at the sudden feeling of a warm hand settling gently over my hands, stilling my movements. Luke? He doesn't lift his gaze to mine, still focused on my hand. Why do you do that? Do what? Do you not realize what you were doing? Huh? I noticed it a long time ago. Whenever you're deep in thought, your right hand starts stroking the pinky finger of your left hand, as though you're playing with the red string of fate that we both know isn't there. Like this. His hand leaves mine, and he demonstrates for clarification. I look down at my hands, baffled. Have I really been doing that without realizing? I don't know. Luke's eyes search for mine, those dark eyes bright with curiosity. I see. He doesn't say anything more, but somehow his intense probing gaze makes me feel vulnerable, almost naked. I immediately avert my eyes, sliding my hands under my legs to keep them from misbehaving again. How long have you been able to see the strings? I try not to keep myself the surprise off my face at the fact that Luke was willing to bring up this topic himself. Usually Luke is the one who's reluctant to acknowledge our unusual ability, preferring to pretend it doesn't exist. Of course, the one time he's bringing it up of his own accord, it's when I don't feel like talking about it after what had just transpired between us. Why are you asking? Even I winks at the defensiveness in my tone. Thankfully, Luke merely smiles, his expression open and gentle. I'm just curious. We've never really talked about the secret we share, have we? Not for a lack of trying on my part. I give him a small smile to indicate that I'm only teasing, and he returns a sheepish grin. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry about that. Why the sudden change of heart? He lifts his shoulder in a small shrug. I know this ability to see the red strings of fate is an important part of you. Now that we are close to friends, and I want to know you better, I feel like we should at least talk about the strange power we both have. I'm slightly startled by his words. I never considered my ability to see the red strings of fate as an important part of me. Is it really an important part of me? Let's see, and if I am looking at this correctly, I believe this is where the final 4 choices come into play. Yes, Luke, yes, no, Mary, okay. So, this kind of dictates what ending you get. The good one or the semi-bad ending. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking at the bad ending. Let's start with the good ending first, then I'll show off the bad ending afterwards. So... is it a really important part of me? And we shall say no, because it does matter now. I'm not surprised he thought that, but I don't think he's right. Yes, I'll admit the red strings of fate is very important to me. Finding my soulmate one day is very important to me. All this is due to the fact that I know for certain soulmates exist, thanks to my power to see the red strings of fate. Still, that doesn't make this power an important part of me. No, it's just a convenient, or rather more inconvenient than not, ability that fails me regarding the one thing I need the most. Val? His voice pulls me out of my thoughts, and I recall his earlier question. His motive for talking about the red strings of fate with me may be mistaken, but I should be happy Luke is finally opening up to me about our shared secret. If anything, it'll let me get to know him better. So I forced myself to relax and answer his question truthfully. To answer your question earlier, for as long as I could remember, you? It's the same case for me as well. I suppose this means people can only be born with this ability and not simply acquire it. Not necessarily. A sample size of 2 is probably far too small for this conclusion. I shrug. Who knows that there are even people other than us who can see the strings, though. We might be the only people in this world who can. Luke purses his lips, and this time it's his turn to shrug. Well, I've never met anyone else who has the same power as me. Have you? I shake my head. Have you ever told anyone about it? The existence of red strings of fate and that you can see them. The instant flashbacks made me wink, which Luke noticed, judging by his half-smile. Who? My parents. They just chalked it up to the overactive imagination of a child, so thankfully I didn't get sent to a mental hospital or anything. My dad was the one who told me the legend of the red string of fate for the first time when he heard me babbling about the red thread with each end tied to their fingers. A fond smile crosses my face at the memory, and I shake my lingering sadness away. Well, what about you? I've never told anyone. I peek at him out of the corner of my eye, but his gaze is firmly held, almost as though he's talking to himself. Really? Not even when you were a little kid? As far as I can remember, at least. I realized pretty early on that what I can see isn't normal, and I should probably be quiet about them unless I want to be laughed at or sent to a doctor. You're smarter than I am, I guess. As expected. Ooh, burn. The unexpected sassy retort elicits a laugh from me, and I nudge him in the side gently with my elbow. Excuse me? You know it's the truth. I disagree. He turns his head slightly towards me, the teasing grin evident. You can't disagree with the truth. Oh, shut up! I give him a light push, and we share a laugh. There's a lull in the conversation after that, and a few minutes pass before Luke asks another question, his voice so soft I can barely hear him. Val, do you ever wish we were never given this power to see the red strings of fate? Do I ever wish I can't see the red strings of fate? And the answer is yes, we do wish. We can't see them. I recall the nights I spent crying, staring at the space where my strength should be, squinting to look for any hint of a thread. I remember the jealousy, the sadness, the loneliness when I come across yet another couple who are lucky enough to find each other before their strings break. The answer escapes my mouth, almost on its own accord, startling even myself. For a moment, Luke doesn't reply, and I almost thought he missed my response. When he finally answers, his murmur is almost lost in the wind. I do too. Every day. Pretty solemn ending right there, if I have to say. The door opens, and I immediately look up with a bright smile, shoving the present into his hands. Happy birth! Oh! You're not Luke. The old lady stands in front of me, clad in a beautiful kimono, her lips curled into a warm, if not a little curious smile. Indeed, I'm not my grandson. Are you a friend of his? Right, of course it's Luke's grandma. I could vaguely recall Luke telling me his grandma would fly in from Japan for his birthday. Besides, that style of clothing is a dead giveaway. Great, what a wonderful first impression I must have given her already. Blushing, I duck my head in both embarrassment and respect. Good afternoon, Mrs. Hayden. Yes, I'm Valerie, one of Luke's friends. Yes, I've heard about you from Luke. You have? I peek up at her in surprise, and she practically beams at me, grasping my hands. Yes, he talks about you a lot. I'm very pleased to finally meet you, Valerie. Are you here to look for my grandson? I give a small nod with still immuted shock. He's not here yet. He called me to tell me he'll be around an hour late because of the traffic. Oh, right, I see. I guess I'll come back later then. I bob my head as thanks and turn to leave, but Luke's grandma grabs my arm in surprising strong grasp for an old lady and starts dragging me into the apartment. No, why don't you just come inside and wait for him to return? I'd love to talk with you more. What? No, it's okay. I'll go check out the new books at the nearby bookstore and come back an hour later. I don't want to trouble you. It wouldn't be any trouble at all. I insist. She ignores my panicked babbling and closes the door behind me, regarding me with a wide smile. Grandma takes no shit from anyone. Despite the kindness in her smile and the crinkles around her eyes, I back away slowly until my back hits the door, and I gulp. Why do I have the feeling that I'm going to get interrogated and every word I say will be analyzed? A sudden thought strikes me. Since Luke's parents have both passed away, his grandma is his only remaining blood relative. Does that mean... this is the equivalent of meeting the parents? A whimper almost escapes my throat, and I'm now even more nervous than before. I can spy Luke's roommate, Zeke, on the couch behind her, shooting me an apologetic and sympathetic look before retreating back to the safety of his room. Traitor! Glaring daggers at Zeke's back, I grudgingly peek back at Luke's grandma, who is now studying me intensely. Come, have a seat. Swallowing hard, I have no choice but to obey and sit on the couch next to her. Let me give you something to drink. What would you like? No, I can get us drinks. Just stay here. Would you like some water? Her eyes crinkle into another smile as she nods. That's very polite of you. Yes, water would be great. Thank you, dear. Forcing a smile, I bounce up from the couch and rush into the kitchen, eager to escape a situation that I've now dubbed the grandparental interrogation in my mind. As I grab the glasses and pour water into them, I pull out my phone with my other hand, hurriedly sending Luke an SOS text and pleading for him to come save me from his grandma. When I'm done, I return to where Luke's grandmother is waiting, holding 2 glasses of water in my hand. Here you go. She accepts the glass with a gracious thank you, taking a sip from it. Neither of us speak for a minute while drinking, and right as I'm about to relax, thinking I was just paranoid and overreacting after all, she peers out over me over the glass of water and speaks. So, you've been here before? I freeze, no doubt looking like a deer in headlights. Huh? You know where to find the glasses immediately, and that boy, Zeke, clearly knows you. For her age, she's a lot shrewder than she looks. Yes, I've been here before for school projects and such. I see. How long have you known Luke? Since the start of the semester, so September. Are you in the same classes as him? No, only one general's class. I'm a year younger than him and in journalism, so we don't usually share any classes. I see. She nods, falling silent once again. When she finally finishes the glass of water, she sets it down on the table, regarding me with a gentle smile. You don't have to be so tense. I'm not a big bad wolf, just an old grandmother. I feel like Red Riding Hood for some reason. I can only let out a nervous chuckle, continuing to grip the glass in my hand tightly for dear life. Where is Luke? Why is he still not back yet? Really, I like you, Valerie. Luke has said nothing but nice things about you. I'm sorry if I made you nervous. I'm just very curious about what the girl my quiet grandson has talked so much about is like. What kind of relationship you have with my grandson? Relationship? We're just friends. The glance she shoots me is so sharp I can feel it piercing through me. I wink. Are you sure? I open my mouth to say yes, but the words die in my throat at her second pointed stare. I can only manage a shrug in the end. Well, it's not really any of my business. I apologized. Curiosity got the better of me. You see, Luke hasn't really had any female friends since the girl he dated in high school. Lena, was it? So I was extremely curious about you when Luke mentioned you to me during our phone calls. I'm really glad I got to meet you. I would have been disappointed if I returned to Japan without meeting you once. I eye her suspiciously, but she seems to be genuine, and the crackling, tense atmosphere from earlier has disappeared. Taking a deep breath, I force myself to relax and return her smile. I've heard great things from you. From Luke, too. I'm really happy to meet you. Did you just arrive in America today? Yes, my flight arrived early this morning, so I got here earlier than Luke expected. I'll be staying for a week, then I'll be heading back to Japan. Right. I nod to myself, unsure how to continue. My grandparents had all passed away by the time I was born, so I have no experience in communicating with the elderly. Oh, that sucks. I know a lot of people and a few friends who used to have grandparents, but they all either died or when they were little, or they all died before they were born, so... And they all say it sucks. What am I supposed to say? Should I ask her about her home? Her past? Luke? If you don't mind me asking, why do you live in Japan? If Luke's here, do you have other family here? Yes, my sister lives in Japan still. She suffered from a stroke a year ago, so Luke encouraged me to move back to Japan to live with her. More to keep her company than to take care of her, considering my own age. We have a caretaker for that anyway. I'm sure you could still take care of her, considering how young and full of energy you still are. She lets out an appreciative laugh, the corner of her eyes crinkle in amusement. You really know how to flatter an old lady. I can see why my grandson likes you so much. A part of me wants to ask what she means by that, but I know I'd just be opening a can of worms, so I decide to keep my mouth shut about it. I should just ask her about her past. What's the safest topic? Were you born in Japan? Yes, indeed I was. I did not move to America until I was about your age. Oh, I see. I nod, lowering my head and sipping from my glass again. Meanwhile, my mind is whirling. So she lived in Japan for 2 decades. That means she must be very familiar with the culture there. Perhaps she's familiar with the local legends as well. As much information as all the books and websites could give me about the legends of Red Strings of Fate, I know that it's nothing compared to the local legends as known by the Japanese. Details in the legends are often lost or changed, especially when there are multiple variations of a single legend. Should I ask her? I bite my lip, trying to make up my mind. Next to me, Luke's grandma gives me a side glance. What is it, child? Is there something you want to say? This is my only opportunity. I have to ask. Trying to sound as casual as possible, I flash her a sweet smile, asking offhandedly. Oh, nothing. I was just wondering. Have you ever heard about the legend of the Red String of Fate? Why do you ask? Nothing, really. It's just that... Well, I'm half Chinese, you see, so I've always been fascinated by Asian lore. I know that this legend of Red Strings of Fate has 2 versions, one Chinese and one Japanese. I know of the Chinese one, but not much about the Japanese version, so I was just curious. I see. There isn't much difference, really. It's just that we believe the red cord is tied around the little finger rather than around one's ankle. Oh. I attempt to hide my disappointment by turning my face away. No, I can't give up just now. She must know something that I don't. This may sound weird, but did the legends ever mention anyone being able to see the Red Strings of Fate? Her gaze seems to sharpen with an inquisitive gleam, and she turns to face me fully. Why? Do you know anyone who can? No? I hastily avoid her eyes. I have a feeling she could see the truth in my eyes if I were to meet her gaze. Well, the legends don't mention anything about it per se, but I knew someone who claimed to have that ability. What? Really? Who? Surely it can't be Luke. He said he never told anyone about his secret, and he wouldn't lie to me about that. Does that mean someone else other than us? I stare at her with wide eyes, and she smiles at me kindly. It's just what my aunt claimed. I never knew if it was the truth, or if she came up with the idea to help further her business. Her business? She was a Nakado. How do you say it in English? Ah yes, a matchmaker. She's helped introduce possible marriage candidates and their families to each other and arrange their marriages. My brows furrow, trying to recall what I've heard about them before. My aunt claimed that the red threads around everyone's little fingers were visible to her, and that all the couples she match-made were meant for each other. She would even turn down customers whom she claimed had to find their soulmates on their own. Luke's grandmother shrugs with a fond smile. She was a strange lady. I never knew if she was lying or not, though she insisted she wasn't. To be fair, all the couples whose marriage she played a role in did end up extraordinarily happy, compared to the arranged marriage at the time, that is. There are a dozen questions buzzing in my mind, but a quick glance at the clock tells me that Luke should be back soon, especially if he received my SOS text from earlier. I doubt he will be pleased to hear me discussing this openly with his grandmother, even though I didn't exactly spill our secret. I need to pick the most important questions to ask before he gets home. What should I ask? And once more, this is pretty important, so... Well, I'll ask, did she ever say why or how she got that power? Luke's grandmother chuckles, covering her mouth with one hand delicately. Curious, are we? I give a sheepish smile, bashfully ducking my head. Just a bit. Well, to answer your question, she claimed she had no idea where the power came from, and why of all people, she was the only one who had this ability. A gift from the gods, perhaps. Of course, it could just be a reasonable of an explanation that she's simply lying about this whole thing from the very start. I frown, chewing on my lips as I think over her words. It doesn't seem too far-fetched that someone else has this ability, and it would make sense if it was someone related to Luke. After all, just like the fictional novels, supernatural powers usually run in the family, right? Still, the fact that she was a matchmaker... Did she become a matchmaker to put her ability to good use, or did she come up with a story to further her career as a matchmaker? Torn between my skepticism and my desire to believe, I look at Luke's grandma and let the question fall from my mouth. You really never found out if she was telling the truth? Luke's grandma tilts her head, peering at me with a gentle smile and impossible wisdom in her eyes. Doesn't matter. In the end, it's all about whether you believe or not. Do you believe it, young lady? I lowered my gaze, staring intently at the frayed, broken red string tied to my last finger of her left hand. Yes, I do. Aww. That was nice. That was nice. It's very, very nice. And I know it's a little bit short, but I'm actually going to be closing up today's episode with that. Mostly because I would like to end next episode with showing off both endings, and I'm pretty sure that's going to hit the hour-long mark. So, until the next episode, I am Tara the Fox. You are the viewer, and I hope to see you next time.